All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're tackling a super important topic, plagiarism. We're going to break down what it is, why it's such a massive deal, and most importantly, how to make sure you're always protecting your own hard work and your academic integrity. Let's get to it.
So let me ask you something, and be honest. Have you ever been up late, maybe a little stressed, working on a paper? You're deep in the research zone, pulling from all these different sources, and you get that little nagging voice in the back of your head that asks, wait, is this still my work, or am I just patchworking stuff together? It's a really common feeling, and knowing where that line is, well, that's everything.
So, to make sure we're all on the same page, let's start with the basics. What exactly is plagiarism? Let's look at the official definition.
Okay, so here's the official word from Oxford University, and it's really important we break this down. Notice it doesn't just say text, it says work or ideas. That means anything: data, images, charts, and yep, even stuff generated by AI. But the real kicker is that last part, without full acknowledgement. At the end of the day, the responsibility falls on you, the writer, to give credit where credit is due.
Now, when you hear the word plagiarism, you probably think of someone just copying and pasting a whole chunk of text from a website. And yeah, that is definitely plagiarism. But the truth is, it's actually a lot more slippery than that. It can show up in a bunch of different ways, and some of them are pretty subtle.
Okay, so this is the one we all think of, right? The classic copy-paste. This is when you take something, a sentence, a phrase, whatever, directly from a source and drop it into your paper without putting it in quotation marks and saying where it came from.
And the rule on this is honestly crystal clear. There should be absolutely no doubt in your reader's mind which words are yours and which words came from somebody else. It's all about being transparent and intellectually honest.
All right, this next one is a trap that so many well-meaning people fall into. It's called the sloppy paraphrase. It's when you think you're doing the right thing by putting something in your own words, but you're kind of hugging the original text a little too closely.
And here's why that's a problem. Just playing a game of synonym swap and shuffling the sentence around, that's not going to cut it. It basically tricks the reader into thinking the flow of the argument is yours when it really isn't. It might feel different, but it's still plagiarism with a cheap disguise on.
All right, get ready for this one, because it catches so many people off guard. It's called self-plagiarism. And I know what you're thinking. Hold on, how can I plagiarize myself? It's my work, my ideas. Well, in the world of academia, you absolutely can. You gotta remember, every single assignment is designed to be a fresh learning opportunity. So, taking that big paper you wrote for your history class last semester and turning it in for your sociology class this semester, that's a no-go. You're not doing new work for that new class. So, unless your professor is giving you the explicit green light, you just can't reuse your own work for credit. Okay, so we've got the what down. But now for the big question. Why does this matter so much? Why do schools and bosses get so bent out of shape about this? Well, it's because this goes way beyond just breaking some dusty old rule. It cuts right to the core of why we do this work in the first place. It really comes down to these four things. First up, it's dishonest. It's a huge breach of academic integrity. Second, you're literally cheating yourself out of the real learning. The struggle of putting thoughts together, that's where the magic happens. Third, you never develop your own voice, your own way of thinking. And finally, it chips away at the trust and credibility of everyone, you, your teachers, and your entire school.
All right, we need to get serious for a minute and talk about the consequences, because the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't a small mistake you can just brush off. It can trigger a total chain reaction that can seriously mess things up for you.
So you might be thinking, or you might hear someone say, come on, what's the big deal? A lot of people probably do it. Well, let's get super clear on what that big deal really is. We are not talking about a slap on the wrist.
Think of it like a set of dominoes just waiting to fall. As a student, it can mean suspension or even getting kicked out of school. And trust me, that kind of mark on your record follows you. For an academic trying to build a career, it's game over. You won't get published. And out in the professional world, people lose their jobs over this, and the hit to their reputation can make it almost impossible to recover.
And believe it or not, it can get even worse. Sometimes this stuff leaves the university setting and steps right into a courtroom. It can be seen as copyright infringement, which means lawsuits and big fines. And in really extreme situations, it can even be a criminal offense.
Okay, I know that was all pretty heavy, but here's the good news, and it's really good news. This is all completely avoidable. This isn't about living in fear, it's just about building good, solid habits. So let's talk about the tools you need to do this right. Honestly, it all comes down to cite it.
It is always better to have one too many citations than one too few.
And here's a little pro tip that can save you a ton of headaches. Learn the difference between paraphrasing and summarizing. Paraphrasing a specific sentence or two can be tricky, right? You're walking a fine line. But summarizing, that forces you to step back, look at the whole picture, and explain the author's main idea in your own words. It's a fantastic way to show that you actually get the material, and it's a much safer way to use it. I absolutely love this quote. It totally reframes the whole point of this. See, the goal of your education isn't to invent something totally new out of the blue. It's about learning how to listen to what others have said, analyze it, weigh the arguments, and then form your own independent conclusion based on that evidence. That's what being an independent thinker is all about.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. Don't think of your papers as just homework. Think of them as your entry ticket into a huge ongoing conversation that's been happening for centuries. Citing your sources is how you show respect for everyone who spoke before you, and it's how you carve out the space for your own unique perspective. So the real question is, what will your voice add?